if we haven't met, my name is Jennifer Elliott, and this is Yin Yoga, and I call it Hip Deep. It's a class I used to teach in a workshop in a festival series, and we kind of sort of work around the hips in what I call a thigh mandala. So we'll get to all the different parts of the thigh, sort of making ourselves around. So we'll get started. So I'm going to start in a reclined butterfly. You can do any version of this that you want. I'm just going to give you the one that I like the best, or at least for right now. So I have a block and I'm going to put that under a bolster. If you don't have any of these props, this can be flat on your back. And I'm going to use a blanket, and then I'll use a timer on my phone. So what I'm going to do for this, and again, any version of reclined butterfly is fine, but I'm going to take a blanket and unfold it, and then I'm just going to roll it up this longer way to wrap around my feet. And this is nice if you don't have other props. A lot of times you at least have a blanket or a towel, like a big beach towel would work, and you can use that. So whether you have props behind you, like a 2-block heart opener type deal, or you're just flat on your back, we'll get started. So I've got the soles of my feet together into butterfly, and I've taken this roll and put it on top of my feet, and then I can tuck it under my calves and sort of pull it up. So this is also nice. Let's say if you don't have blocks, it would give you that feeling of supporting the knees. So take that prop if you have it. We're going to be in this first pose for 5 minutes. It's going to be the longest pose, but we'll get ourselves set. And again, I use this timer, Insight timer, so a bell will sound when it's time for us to be done. So find your way onto your back in whatever version of this reclined butterfly you're taking. You have the eyes closed. And most of you, I know, I believe, but if this is new to you, or my style of yin is new, I sometimes use props. It's really just relative to you, whatever feels good in your body. And I'll give you options of the poses. They're more suggested shapes versus particular poses. So any version of a reclined butterfly is fine here. And then as you start to settle, soften the jaw, the eyes melt into their sockets. Feel the hands relax, the shoulders get heavy. And just start to notice the breath. What's the breath telling you about how you arrived in this moment? And if you were able to take practice before, if you did more of a flowing practice before this yin practice, you may have really gotten yourself into a nice place of being present and steady. But maybe this was your first opportunity today to stop, to be still, and it may take you a little bit longer to get present, to get grounded. And so just meet yourself where you are. And we'll do that with the breath. So just start to take a nice full inhale and exhale through the nose. Whatever feels natural, nothing forced. And then we'll begin to split the inhale into 3 parts. So take an inhale through the nose and just stop 1/3 of the way and pause. And then continue to inhale another 1/3 and pause. Inhale the last. Exhale naturally. Inhale 1/3, belly rises. Inhale another 1/3, side ribs widen. Inhale the last, chest lifts. Exhale naturally. One more like that. Inhale 1/3. Inhale 1/3. Inhale the last. Exhale naturally. Take a few natural breaths on your own, sort of recovery breaths. See if you can settle your attention just a bit more into your body. I really like the breath as a tool to unwind. You'll notice just a few cycles of breath and already the body, the mind have started to become a bit more clear, a little less cluttered, a bit more present. And now as you observe the breath, it may have a much more calm and relaxed flow. We're here a little less than a minute. Maybe you continue that 3-part inhale. All right, start to blink the eyes open. We're going to keep the legs in butterfly if that's okay for you. Reach for the edges of the mat, press yourself straight up, and we're going to keep the legs in butterfly. Now everyone's a little bit different, so I just sort of naturally shifted my hips back a little bit, but I'm still in butterfly, and honestly, I'm still comfortable with this blanket setup, so I'm going to leave it. But because it's suggested shape, legs could be closer to the groin, to the body, they could be further away. You could even do this at a wall. So we're going to sit up tall, or you're going to begin to fold forward in your butterfly, whatever makes sense for you. And we're going to be here about 3 minutes, so not quite as long. Once you take your forward fold in your butterfly, or some version of moving into the inner thighs, just explore, how are you feeling? You can allow the eyes to soften. Maybe they close again. It's common to become distracted. And so there will be times where I say things to sort of give you a focus, a drishti, if you will, so that you can place your attention. But I highly encourage you, when you can, see if you can just tune in. Not tuning me out necessarily, but just investigating within for yourself. You may start to notice sensation. I did this earlier and sort of physically noticing I have one foot that's forward of the other. So now that I've done it twice, it's a good place to investigate. Do I have one leg all longer than the other? Am I slightly twisted? Did I move my blanket in a way that makes my legs uneven? So these are great ways that you can start to investigate your own experience. We have about 90 seconds left. See if you can explore that with your breath. As you move through all parts of the thigh, the front, the back, the sides, within, is there an area that for you constantly become aware of, either through sensation or just noticing physically what's happening in the body? right, you're almost there. Okay, so we're going to keep this shape sort of one last time here. And we're going to change it. It'll be a little different for everyone. So I'm going to use this bolster. I just happen to have it behind me, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to have a seat on it. This could be a blanket, it could be a block, it could be no props whatsoever. I'm going to take Malasana, so a squat. And you can sort of readjust yourself. You may or may not use that prop. I like it just because we're here for a while. You can also use the wall, sort of placing your feet on the wall, or even happy baby. So any version of this inner thigh stretch. And we'll be here once again for 3 minutes. And so the target area for those last 3 poses have been inner thighs. But depending on your body, that may not even be your experience. You may feel this more in your lower back or in your knees. You may not even get to that target area depending on what's happening in the body. And so if that's you and it doesn't make sense to stay in these poses, find something else that does. Get creative with your own practice. Start to use your breath almost like a metronome, keeping time. But it's more, again, for you to keep focus. So think about a metronome, or think about the second hand on a clock. And linking your breath, sort of each inhale and exhale on that gradual clock. And trying to count the ticking, counting the breath. And as soon as you get distracted, we'll start back over at 1. And see if we can practice this for 90 seconds. Count the breath. Stay present. Notice any gripping. See where you can soften. We're more than halfway through. Last few breaths. All right, how do we do? So find your way slowly into a child's pose. And if you have blankets, you may want to blanket underneath the knees. It's always nice. Just enjoy a nice, comfortable child's pose, whatever that feels like, looks like for you. Just take a moment to settle. You can always come back to child's pose, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to come up to hands and knees, and I'm going to keep this blanket underneath. And we're going to do a pose called Outrigger, but again, it's still target area, and we're targeting the inner thighs. So I'm going to start with the right leg down, sort of in my tabletop. I've got my blanket, and I'm going to take my left leg out to the side, And again, it really depends on you, where the foot goes, if the toes are up or down. You can stay high, sort of as I am here, where I'm just hips over knee. You might even go lower, back towards a child's pose. So again, the idea is to get into the inner thigh. How you get there just depends on you and your body. If this is not for your standing knee, maybe come to your back with a strap and you can open the inner thigh. We'll call this 2 minutes just because it may be an awkward pose to be on your knees. There's 2 reasons we would feel flexible or not, or feel limited. One way may be tension, so sort of tissues might stretch or not stretch, so the length of those tissues. And the other might just be compression. It might be the end range of motion of the joints, of the bones. If it's the bones, that won't really change. Just fine. Give yourself permission to be as you are. If it's tension, if it's tissues, they may eventually stretch. Allow gravity and time to help you figure that out. Five more breaths here. All right, slowly come to center. If you need a rest, like a child's pose, take it. And then we'll do the other side. So again, target his inner thighs. If it's not this outrigger pose, then do something else that allows you to access the inner thigh. You can even do something like a half frog on your belly or happy baby on your back. So timer's going. We're into this side, 2 minutes. We're almost done with the inner thighs, I promise. If you're doing outrigger like I am, you might even explore different ways to get into the wrists. If the wrists are bothering you, you can make fists. If you want to get into stretching, you can turn the fingertips back towards you. Or you can even explore the back of the hand on the mat. So lots of ways to explore this for you. You just have 1 minute left, 10 breaths. Okay, Bring that leg back or come to center from wherever you were. And then we'll do our last sort of inner thigh stretch, I promise. So I'm going to take this blanket and fold it up. Any width is fine. I think I'll keep it just in one fold. And you're going to take your legs out to the sides. So bringing it all together, everything we've been working towards. You can take this if you want as a split leg stretch. If you are fortunate enough to have a wall, you might do legs at the wall, split that way, which is really nice. And we're going to be here a little bit longer. This is going to be 4 minutes, and then we'll move out of these inner thighs and hamstrings. Well, inner thighs. Okay. And so we've taken a lot of time to get here. See how you're feeling. For me, when I move into these inner thigh stretches, a lot of times the inner knee is where I feel my limitation. As we've been moving really slow, it feels like I have a bit more space than usual. So see how you're feeling. Use the breath again, but this time let's use the breath samavritti. It's one of my favorite breathing techniques. The inhale and the exhale are the same length, and it just helps to create that evenness of mind. So take an inhale through the nose to a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale out the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Okay, again on your own. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 4. Inhale 4. And exhale 4. Continue on your own. We're halfway through this pose. That 4 and 4 may feel like too much or too little. So see if for the last minute or so you can use a number that works for you. Maybe it's 5 and 5 or 3 and 3. Where can you be where there's no strain? The inhale equal to the exhale. Your last few moments in this pose. All right, good job. So bring yourself out And you're gonna move slow. So even though we've taken a while to get here, the body is not ready to move real fast. So you can take a hand underneath each knee, manually guide the leg back. Give yourself a few moments to rest. So I'm going to show while you're resting, feel free to just grab onto your knees and rest. I'm going to show sort of the alternative poses that you can do if you're not doing what we're doing next. So we're going to take a pigeon next. But if pigeon's not for you, you might take deer legs. And so deer legs looks like one side is a pigeon, one side is a half reclined hero. And you're going to lean more to whatever leg is in the front. And then you'll shift forward any amount. The more you angle to the side, the less intense. The more you angle to the center, the more intense. And then when we come out of this, if you're doing this version instead of our pigeon pose, when we stretch the back thigh, you can lean back and you can stretch your thigh that way or lie on your belly. So I just wanted you to see that first if that was something you were choosing to do. Otherwise, we're going to take pigeon pose. So you can face the front of your mat and just slide the right leg forward. Maybe use a blanket, which is nice if you happen to have one. Just find your way into a comfortable pigeon pose for you, or that deer pose, those deer legs. We're starting to build up tolerance for longer holds. So we'll continue with the 4 minutes. We'll kind of do maybe 2 and 2, stretching here and then starting to stretch into the back legs. So we'll split it up. So in a flow practice, you might be familiar with the idea of sort of pushing through something uncomfortable, really allowing yourself to get into that focus, to do all the vinyasas or the challenge pose, the arm balance, whatever it is, you sort of push yourself. In yin, we push ourselves, but in a different way. So we don't want to physically try to push ourselves deeper into the pose, but we do want to try to push our boundaries. What do we, sort of those tolerances, right? What do we find uncomfortable? Now, if it's uncomfortable because it's not good for the knee or a joint, then that's fine. Then you want to back out, take care of yourself. But if it's uncomfortable, maybe sitting with yourself, maybe sort of sitting in silence or sitting, sometimes these practices sitting in our house can be uncomfortable because then we see all the things we should do or sort of are on our to-do list. So try to make your mat your universe, sort of just shut out everything around you. Just bring yourself into this space and push yourself in that other way. Can you push yourself to stay present? Can you push your edge in a way that's not driven by your ego? Which may be hard to find. That's why we investigate. All right, so we're halfway through this pose. You are welcome in both pigeon and deer just to stay as you are. Or if you're in deer, you sort of to walk yourself back. If you're in pigeon, you can lift yourself up and just stay there. Or maybe you're ready to reach for the back ankle. So again, choose to stay or get into that back thigh. Either just holding the thigh, or maybe start to move more into a bind to get into that front leg. So whatever you've decided on, you've got 90 seconds, not too long. And use your breath to create space. Sometimes when I'm in these poses, I realize there's parts of me that are gripping. And I didn't even realize I'm sort of unconsciously holding the breath or tensing a muscle. These last 5 breaths, 30 seconds, can you release something? All right, saved by the bell. We made it. So unwind, however you are. Take a rebound pose. So what's going to allow you to just to feel centered and stable and grounded. And just having a seat with the ankles crossed. You might be in child's pose or Apanasana. And then when you're ready, move to side 2. So whatever version of the pose you took. It's nice to do the same thing on both sides, but not always available. So choose for you what makes sense. Again, it'll be that same 4 minutes, so we'll do 2 and 2 if you decide to split up the pose. And there may be times where the length is too intense, right? The 4 minutes might really be too much for you. And so if you come out early of these poses, just enjoy your rest. If you find a good edge, know that you can just rest there. You can just be still. Instead of trying to push through it, can you just be right on that edge? Use your breath to create more space. Before you know it, you're way past that edge without even trying. All right. So halfway through this pose, feel free to stay as you are, or if it made sense for you to reach for the back ankle or to start to lie back gently in your deer pose, moving to the front of the thigh. Maybe you can close the eyes. And trace the experience. Wherever there's sensation, can you breathe into it? Is it on the front or the back of the thigh? Was it more intense with the inhale or the exhale? And about 6 breaths left. gradually unwind. Again, take another moment to rest, and I'm going to give you a few options for our next pose. So many of you may have a block or a bolster, and you might lie on your back and lift yourself into some version of a bridge pose, and then pull one leg in and either straighten the other leg or keep the knee bent. So this is a nice option. I'm going to actually do King Arthur at the wall. I rarely have wall space, and I cleared just a little space. So I'm going to do that instead, but it's the same pose. So either decide to take that supported bridge on your back, or you can just take a blanket up against the wall. You'll notice I didn't need that much wall space here, but I'm going to place a knee on the blanket, your shin on the wall, your toes point up. This other leg we need to bring out like it's a lunge, and it's nice to have props here. But again, whatever you have in your house is great. If you have knee sensitivity, the one on the back is probably going to feel a little bit better for you. So if you're using props, hands can be down, your hands can be on your thigh, just like that King Arthur. You can use furniture, whatever you have in the house. But I'm going to start the timer so we're not here longer than we need. And we are going to try to be here just a little while. So we're going to be here 3 minutes. I know that might be really intense for some of you, myself included. So don't go deeper than you need to. Give yourself a little time. So already I've kind of lifted up. I think for me, I'm going to lower back down so I have a little time to get into the pose. Or you might take this as the back bend or lying on your belly, reaching for your ankle. So target is front of the thigh. And there's a few of you I actually know really enjoy like a half reclined hero. That's also a nice option. Oh, good. So for me, I'm finding the top of my foot is not happy with the wall. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a prop in between. I just happen to have that with me. This can also be like a dragon lunge. So be creative. It doesn't have to be my pose. And sometimes we avoid those things which challenge us. And so if this pose is challenging, maybe the knees aren't comfortable, it's not for you. Challenge yourself. How can you get into this target area of the front thigh, the hip flexors, the quads, in a way that doesn't make your knee uncomfortable? Look at that. We're more than halfway through. We've got 60 seconds left. In about 5 breaths, the timer is going to go off. If you're at the wall like I am, make sure your foot doesn't slip left or right away from the wall. That's going to torque the knee. We want to make sure that the knee doesn't twist in any way. So I'll give you kind of a specific way to get out of this so that we're not torquing the knee. We've got a few more breaths. Remove my little yogi towel between my foot and the wall so that I can take this dismount from the wall. So the way we're going to come out of this, if you're at the wall, is you're going to lean forward, tuck your toes under on the wall, and then lift straight up. And that way there is no twisting or torquing of the knee. And then we'll move to the other side. So bring your knee down onto a surface. Again, it may be this pose, maybe something else. I'm going to add my little prop in between just because that wall is A little bit of a hard surface. We're here 3 minutes. Start to think of that thigh mandala, sort of that circular motion around the thigh. So we're doing the front thigh now. We've done the inner and the back thighs. What are we missing? Has one direction been easier for you? What's more challenging? Don't have a wall, there's a lot of creative ways that you can do this by flipping a folding chair over. I don't have one, and I didn't anticipate a lot of you did, so I think most of us can find at least a little corner of wall space somewhere. Okay, we're halfway through. We've got 90 seconds left. You can always back off. When you get stressed or angry, what do we say to do? To take those long, deep, even breaths. And so you'll notice in these poses where there's challenge, you might naturally, intuitively start to lengthen the breath, slow it down, creating that sense of calm within. Just a couple more breaths. And again, if you're at the wall, be real conscious of your knee. We don't want our foot to slide down. So you're going to lean forward, tuck the toes under on the wall, and press yourself straight out. Okay, so have we thought of what we've missed on our thighs? We've done inner, we've done the back, the inner thighs. We want to get into those outer hips. So we're going to go Malasana or Shoelace. So from hands and knees, you can just slide one knee in front of the other. I did my left leg for whatever reason. I'll just stay with it. And it's nice if you find that you are sort of leaning over to one side. You can sit on a blanket or a prop. The higher you are, sort of the easier it is to get into the hips. The higher the hips, the less pressure on the knees and ankles. So I'll start the timer and then I'll give us some options. But we're staying with sort of these longer holds. And so we're going to move into this pose for 4 minutes because there's not that many postures that really access these outer hips in this way. We spent a really good long time on some of those other poses. So if the knees are affecting you, if this is just not your version of the pose, you can find your way onto your back. And you can even do this at the wall. You can slide your legs up the wall, knee over knee, and slide your feet down to either side. Or if there's no wall space, you can hold onto your calves and just sort of split your legs. If the knees are really upset with any kind of twisting, you can just cross with one leg at a diagonal to get into that outer hip. So choose the one that works for you. Use the props as you'd like. Give yourself a few moments, like I am. Adjust, fidget, do what you need so that you can commit to stillness. After about the next couple of breaths, just commit to whatever shape you've created. You can sit or fold forward. If you have arm variations, you're welcome to them, but not necessary. And because these poses tend to bring up that sense of maybe anxiety or resistance, let's see if we can change the breath to longer exhales. So the longer the exhale, the more we sort of slow the nervous system down. So begin to inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale out the nose for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 6. Continue on your own. Inhale 4. Exhale 6. And about 1 minute left. And last couple breaths. All right, I don't know about you, but that got to be a real comfy pose. I don't know if it was releasing all those muscles and tissues before we got here. It's also my better side, so I'll see what happens when I get to side 2. So unwind, do what you need, and then find your way onto that second side. And again, it's target area again. So if this particular posture is not for you, no big deal. How can you get into that outer hip in a way that is? It might even be repeating poses. Okay, 4 minutes. And these longer holds, we're also hoping to train that meditative mind. Things are sort of speeding up. Our attention span is shorter and shorter. I don't know about you, but I watch videos online and feel like it's been forever, and I click off and it's been like a minute and a half. So this yin practice is helping us to sort of create that length, that longer attention span, to stay with something, to allow outside distraction to just fade away. Try those long exhales again. So I really like the number 4 and 6, but you can do any length. You can even double the exhale. It might be 4 and 8. So start again, taking an inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6 or 8. Continue on your own. Inhale. And allow that exhale to be longer. It feels like the edge is not allowing you to rest. Back off some. And re-enter when you feel ready. You have 1 minute left. All right. I don't know about you, but that was definitely a harder side. A little more challenging. Well, let's unwind and take our last 2 poses. So come to your back. We're already there. And we'll cross. Let me change our timer here though, because we're not here as long. All right. So when you come to your back, thread the needle, cross ankle over knee, or figure 4. This can be any version of this that you'd like. So figure 4 or thread the needle. We'll be here 2 minutes and then we'll add on. See if you can close the eyes. And really trace the whole thigh. Yoga is about allowing places to become clear. We've often worked out before and maybe noticed a muscle that we didn't know we had or didn't feel it in that same way. The same thing is in our practice. And so you may be very aware now of muscles or tissues or areas within the hip. And see if you can maintain that awareness even when we're not in that particular stretch. How do you maintain the awareness
to hold all those parts in your mind at once. Go 5 more breaths. Maybe straighten the left leg. When the timer goes off, we're going to add on to this pose. So don't change the legs or come out. Okay, so keep your legs in figure 4. If that top leg was straight, then just bend it. And you can take your whole leg unit and just gently drop it down to the left side. So stamp the sole of the foot onto the ground. You can hold on to that leg. You can very gently press the thigh open. We're here for 2 minutes again. It's nice to revisit these poses. This is a pose that I do often, but with this real release of the whole thigh, this is probably the first time that I'm really able to feel the stretch much higher up. I've sort of released more of what's gripping in that inner hip, top thigh. And so now I feel like I can move a little bit more deeply into this pose, experience different areas that I hadn't before. You can reach the right arm behind you if that aids you in a little deeper stretch as well. And let the breath just create its own rhythm. Slowly unwind. Set your feet down. Left ankle over right knee, thread the needle, or your version of it. Go ahead and pull the leg in. If this is too extreme, you can always set your foot on a prop if you don't want to go all the way into this pose. Sometimes I'll talk about muscles, or we'll segment the body, like this is the lower body or the legs or this particular muscle. But when we really get into tissues, they sort of interweave, they interdigitate. And so even though we sort of separate them into concepts that we can understand, a lot of times they are more integrated than that. And so it's one of the things here, something you can imagine that the tissues of your body are like a spider web. And even though we might be doing a very specific tug at the bottom of the web, you may notice a little tug at the top. You may feel that freeing up, that pulling of that web in all places. And so that happens here. And so you might start to notice the sort of freeing benefits of these postures in other areas, not just the lower body, but maybe the upper body, the back, the shoulders. 5 more breaths. Maybe that right leg is straight. All right, so keep the legs in this figure 4. Bend the right knee if it was straight and take the legs all the way to the right side. Find that figure 4 again in your twist. If I didn't say this on the first side, but if this is not for you, any twist is fine. We'll do this and take a final stretch before we get into Shavasana. Find your pose. Maybe you extend that left arm. And for me today, all my things that I noticed were on the right side, that right foot being a little higher, the right hip being a little tighter, a little bit deeper of an experience. Has it been the same for you, or does that experience zigzag through the body? Just notice. About 5 breaths left. Great. Okay, so for our finishing pose, if you decide that you want to sort of stay on your back and straighten the leg and move into a twist or sort of a final stretch that way, go for it. You might even take Malasana or Happy Baby. I'm going to rock up and take a nice forward fold before I get into Shavasana. So whatever you'd like, you might even do plow pose. I'm going to slide a blanket under the knees. Some of you may use that strap around the feet, whether you're doing the Paschimottanasana like I am, relying on your back. And we'll just be here, I don't know, about 10 breaths or so. If you need longer, take it. We're sort of finishing out our mandala, finding our way to our hamstrings, back body.
Alright, then lead with your heart. If you're taking a forward fold, come up. If you haven't already switched to the second leg, if you're on your back, go ahead and switch to your second leg. And we'll go ahead and get ourselves set up for Shavasana. So do Shavasana in a way that's comfortable for you. How are you going to be able to relax, surrender? For me, I think I'm going to take a nice bolster, which I think I'll take the bolster underneath my thighs, and then use the blanket for the pelvis. So we'll be here 3 minutes. I'll use that timer so that we can fully relax. All right. We've arrived. Shavasana. Gravity take over. You've done really great work. Let the breath just find its own rhythm. And start to move your fingers and toes. Reach overhead, maybe yawn. Bend your knees, roll to your side. And you can start to press yourself upright to seated. Hands to heart in gratitude. Let's lift our hearts, bow our heads. Namaste.